Hello comrades, I mean friends. Now today is a pretty big update, except not really, because this is a beta update, not that that matters, because it's all pretty balanced and I can't see, if it gets changed it'll be very slightly. And darn right, that's not clickbait, Necromancy is coming to OSRS, kind of, but it's not that good, but we'll get to that, don't worry. So let's hop on over to the beta world, which if you want to play is world 401, 407 and 412. Now briefly, this is what we're going to be going over. There are new teleports that have been added, all of the old reanimation spells, you know when you'd use the ensouled heads to reanimate creatures, kill them for pro XP, all of those have been grouped into 4 different spells rather than having loads of different ones for each into different head. There's been a few new spell sets being Grasp, Resurrect, and Demon Bane, also Corruption, and a bunch of individual spells that have very niche and weird but interesting effects. And we're going to go over all of them. So first of all, the teleports. Some of the teleports are new, some are still the same, and some have been altered slightly. You have the Arceus Home Teleport, the Library Teleport, the Draenor Manor Teleport, Battlefront Teleport, Mind Altar, Respawn, South Graveyard, Frankenstein's Castle, West Ardy Harmony Island, Cemetery, which is in the wilderness, and of course Barrows and a Patrol. So not much has changed there, but now let's get into some combat spells, baby. So first of all, we have the Grasp spell. So there's a low level, mid level and high level version of this spell. Each one is more effective at what it does. And the whole gimmick with this spell set is that each time you cast, it has a chance to stop the target from moving for either 2 or 4 ticks, depending on which spell it is. So the lower level Ghostly Grasp is a 10% chance to freeze them for 2 ticks, and it has a base damage of 12. Then there's the Skeletal Grasp, which is a 25% chance to bind them for 4 ticks with a base damage of 18. And lastly, the Undead version, which has a 50% chance of binding for 4 ticks and has a base damage of 24. Now when I say base damage, just for comparison, Fire Surge's base damage is also 24, or it's 36 with the Tome of Fire, and Ice Barrage's base damage is 30. So it's not quite as strong as either of those two. But that's not all. Grasp can actually be buffed by a spell in the spellbook. There is a spell called the Mark of Darkness. Now Mark of Darkness applies a lot of debuffs to your target, but the one debuff we're going to focus on for now is grasping spells are twice as effective. And when it says twice as effective, it means chance of the binding effect to trigger is twice as likely, and the duration is 2 times longer. So you know, that's pretty good. You can bind people for a very long time. Anyway, the next set of spells is Necromancy or Resurrection. So there's 3 resurrect spells. You can resurrect a ghost, a skeleton, or a zombie, and you cannot do all of them at the same time. Only one can be out. If you summon one, then you try to summon another, it will just get rid of the last one and the new one will come out. Now what are the differences between the ghost, skeleton, and zombie? First of all, these things do not work in PvP. They just don't. Now, the ghost does mage damage and it has a max hit of 1, which you know, that's pretty small. And the skeleton does range damage and has a max hit of 2, and the zombie does melee damage and has a max hit of 3. Now they have pretty low max hits, but they do ignore your enemy's defense, which means they hit basically all the time. And in the dev blog, this might be fixed. In the dev blog, it says they can hit zeros, but when I was actually testing it, I never saw them hit a 0. I'm calculating the zombie's DPS as if it can hit a 0, 1, 2, or 3, meaning its average hit is 1.5. But I never actually saw him hit a 0, so the average hit might be more towards a 2, but I don't know. For this example, we're going to use the zombie since it hits the highest. When you call forth a creature, it will stay alive for 1 tick for each magic level you had at the time of casting. Meaning, if you had 99 magic, then cast the summon spell, it will stick around for 99 ticks, which is 59.4 seconds. And these thralls attack once every 4 ticks and will target whatever the player targets, meaning it will continue to switch targets depending on what you're hitting. So let's go to the DPS then. So if we use the max level thrall, which is the zombie, which can hit up to a 3, and we had 99 magic at the time of summoning it, that means it will hit 24 times. So now let's calculate its DPS, assuming it can hit zeros at an equal rate that it can hit 1, 2, and 3, equals 36 damage over 59.4 seconds. And big brain time, that is 0.6 DPS. Sure, that's not very good, but actually it's pretty decent. So for comparison, a blowpipe with Addy darts against a mutated Bloodveld on task is 12.5 DPS. So therefore, if you summoned a zombie by your side, it'd boost your DPS by about 5%. Though I will say, this scenario is like best case because blowpipe is best DPS and you're on Slayer task. Percentage wise, the zombie will boost your DPS more in like bossing scenarios where they actually have defense. But a 5% DPS increase isn't that bad. Also, if you're on Slayer task, it's worth noting that thralls only hang out the area that you summoned them in. So you should cast them close to the middle of all the creatures in case it runs out of range. Since all of the thralls ignore defense, there's not much point in using the lower level ones, even if you desire their combat style deviation. The ghost uses magic, the skeleton uses range, and the zombie uses melee. But they do ignore defense, but they don't ignore protect pres, so that's the only reason you might want to switch between them. And that's Resurrection, aka Necromancy. Now let's move on. Now let's talk about Corruption. Corruption is a new status effect like poison that you can apply to players. It doesn't work against NPCs for reasons that you'll see now. So you can use a spell called Greater Corruption, which gives you a 66% chance for your attacks to corrupt a player, or yeah, your target. And what Corruption does is it makes your target start losing prayer points at this rate. After 6 seconds, they lose 1 prayer point. After 8 seconds, they lose 2 prayer points, and after 14 seconds, they lose 3 prayer points. That's 6 seconds, then 2 seconds after, and then 6 seconds after that. Now, you remember Mark of Darkness? Part of Mark of Darkness is a corruption occurs twice as often. Now, when we tested this in game, it kind of just meant that every 2 seconds, it would inflict the prayer drain. So as soon as it's inflicted, 2 seconds after it drains 1, 2 seconds after it drains 2, and 2 seconds after it drains 3. Now, corruption does not stack, but as soon as one corruption runs out, you can apply another immediately. So it's basically only good for smiting people in the wilderness. Now let's move on to a damage dealing spell. Demon Bane. You can probably guess what it is. It's a spell that's good against demons. So let's compare the damage. So again, there are 3 tiers to this spell. There's Inferior, which has 16 base damage, Superior, that has 23 base damage, and Dark, that has 30 base damage. And for comparison again, Fire Surge's base damage is 24, or 36 with Tome of Fire, and Ice Barrage's base damage is 30. You might think, huh, that's not very good, because like Fire Surge is better. Oh no, you are wrong, because not only is this spell like dirt cheap to cast, as it only costs fire runes and 1 soul rune. Sorry, I'm correct, 2 soul runes for the highest level one. But the Mark of Darkness actually applies a debuff here. So another debuff, this is the last debuff of the Mark of Darkness. Demon Bane spells deal 25% extra damage to demonic enemies, and Demon Bane spells have 25% more accuracy against demonic enemies. So this brings the highest level demonic spell base damage to 37.5, which is higher than both Fire Surge with Tome of Fire and Ice Barrage. So if you're going to be maging demons, Demon Bane is definitely the best, and it is absurdly cheap. It's way cheaper than Fire Surge. Now we're going to move on to the individual spells that have just like kind of weird quirky effects, which don't really have any synergy with the rest of the spells. So this one, it's called Shadow Veil, and what it does, it gives you a 15% chance of avoiding being caught while pickpocketing. Now from when I tested this, it seemed like when you would fail a pickpocket, it would just give you a chance to not be noticed rather than they turn around, punch you, and stun you. This stacks with the Dodgy Necklace, which does kind of the same thing. On the blog it says 15%, but when I was testing it, basically every time I failed, it like always happened, so that might be bugged, but hey, that's what its effect is meant to be. Now next is a pretty nifty spell. I didn't think of how to use this, and I messaged Bownarator, and I was like, Bownarator, how do you use this? He's like, you noob, Implings. I was like, big brain time, let me explain what the spell does. So the spell attracts enemies towards you and prevents fleeing, and it doesn't work on foes who can't move. That's perfect for Implings. Rather than entangling them and you run to them, you cast Dark Law on them and they come to you, and they'll sit in front of you for like 2 or 3 ticks, and then they'll start wandering again. And since they can't flee, if you fail to catch them, doesn't matter, they won't flee, but they will continue wandering, and this spell has a 10-second cooldown, which isn't too bad. Getting into some very niche spells now. So Vile Vigor converts all prayer points into run energy. I can't think when you would ever want to use this. It sacrifices all of your available prayer points to top off your run energy, meaning if you had 70 run energy, it would sacrifice 30 prayer points to get 30 run energy back. So like when you're PKing, it maybe turns your prayer potions into energy potions, but I can't see how this would be useful, because if you're PKing, you'll probably bring staminas anyway. But hey, there's that. And this one is kind of big. Degrime. It cleans all of the herbs in your inventory, but you only get half the herb lore XP of what the herbs would normally give. Also, it's worth adding that this has a really long animation time, point that if you just click your inventory really fast, you could probably clean the herbs quicker. But hey, it's pretty nifty. Now this next spell, so Ward of Arceus, gives you the buffs, which are completely immune to corruption. Grasp spells only keep you bound for 1 tick. Like the highest level one is meant to keep you bound for 4 ticks, but this makes it so it's only 1 tick, and you get 10% damage reduction from demonic foes. And all of these spells have the same effect, where they last for an X ticks, where X is your magic level, but some seem to run out quicker. It seems a bit buggy. This one is pretty neat actually. It's one of the more useful ones. So Death Charge. The next Slayer creature that the caster kills will recharge 15% of their special attack energy. You can only use it once every 60 seconds. Now it takes 30 seconds to naturally regenerate 10% energy. Every 60 seconds, you can gain an extra 15% special attack energy whenever you kill a Slayer creature. That is key. You can't use it in PvP. It has to be a Slayer creature. But yeah, it's pretty good. Now the final spell, debatable whether it's useful or not. Sinister Offering converts up to 3 sets of bones into prayer points and gives 3 times their base experience. Now for comparison, a Gilded Altar with both burners lit gives 3.5 times the base experience, but it's slower due to you use 1 bone at a time automatically, whereas Sinister Offering does 3 bones at a time, but with a kind of long animation. I'll put a comparison of the speed side by side for 12 superior dragon bones. Yeah, the Gilded Altar will get you more bang for your buck. You'll get more XP per bone, but it seems that Sinister Offering will use them up quicker, unless of course you're manually using bones on the Gilded Altar. Now I'll quickly go over the weapons that can auto cast these offense spells are the Slayer Staff, the Skull Scepter, the Arim Staff, the Staff of the Dead, and the Kodai Wand. And I was using the Kodai Wand throughout this video. Now that's all the changes for this beta. I hope you found this interesting. Finally, Necromancy. But yeah, it doesn't seem too amazing. I think it would be kind of neat if they added a bunch of creatures that don't just do straight damage. If they gave your character some kind of buff, like an accuracy or damage buff, I think that would be a lot more interesting. But probably overpowered. But I don't know. It would add a whole new dynamic to the game where like minions could give you buffs. But yep, I hope you found this video informative, I mean. And again, this is a beta, so some things are probably going to change, but the general concepts, what I've gone over, is going to be about the same. It's just some numbers will probably be tweaked. So yep, hope you enjoyed, hope you found it very insightful, and if I got any of the information wrong, please comment it down below so that I can like in a comment and correct it, whether that's for me misreading something or actually they've updated it. Yeah, pretty neat. 5% DPS increase if you use a zombie summoner. Stay tuned if you like Don't Starve Together as well, which is kind of a neat survival game which I've been playing a lot, and I might start uploading a couple of videos of that. I also play Genshin Impact now. I'm pretty addicted to that one. So if you want to see videos on that, just tell me. And yep, that's everything. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.